Hi everyone. How you doing? Just wanted to mention that the holy month of Ramadan has now started. This is the major month on the Islamic calendar. Now, I've lived in Qatar for over 15 years. And after living here for about 4 years, I, I think that was around, yeah, 2010, 2011, I decided that I was going to try fasting, just, sort of more as a cultural experience to try to get more in tune with the country because during Ramadan, things change pretty dramatically in terms of the hours you work, when stores are open, what events are available, what time things happen. And so I decided to give it a try. And it worked out so well that I've now done it every year since that I've been here. So with Ramadan starting, that means, yep, it was time to start fasting. Now, for those of you who don't know, how Ramadan works is you have to fast, including not drinking any water. It's not just food, it's drinks as well, from the first light of the day, not sunrise, but when you can just start seeing the light appear on the horizon, all the way until sunset. Now, here that is starting about 4 a.m. and finishing around 6 p.m. So you fast for about 14 hours. So, in preparation for Ramadan, one of the things I have to do about the week or so leading up to it is decaffeinate. I'm used to drinking coffee. I like coffee, tend to have like usually 3 or 4 a day. But when you fast, you can't. You're not allowed to drink anything. So if you don't, kind of wean yourself off the caffeine, the first couple of days of Ramadan are horrible because you will go through caffeine withdrawal and you get splitting headaches and all this stuff. And you can't even take like aspirin or anything because you're not supposed to be eating or drinking anything during the day. Now, some of the guys I know still do this. Like they just, yep, I'll just have splitting headache for a day and then that's it. It's done. Whereas I'm just like, just wean yourself off the caffeine for a week or so. Just slowly reduce how much you take day by day and you'll be fine. Then when Ramadan comes along, no problem. So far, so good. I mean, been fasting since 4 a.m. Don't have a headache yet. So I think I managed to reduce the caffeine intake enough that I'm not going to be getting like a headache and withdrawal. So one of the things about fasting, and since it's from 4 a.m. to about 6 p.m., is you definitely want to have some food and hydrate up before 4 a.m. Just to get you through the 14-hour period. So what I always do is I always have some food and drink on my nightstand. Typically a couple glasses of water, maybe a glass of milk or laban, nuts, dried fruit, some cereal, whatever. And then at like 3:30 in the morning, my alarm goes off, and then I'm just like, no, and you just gotta quickly eat and drink before I go back to bed and go to sleep. Now, in Ramadan at this time, Muslims would actually go to prayer because you have to go to the first prayer of the day when the sun is on the horizon. But for me, okay, at least I get to go to bed, so I can sleep in a bit more before starting the day off because you want to get as much sleep as possible and try to kind of reduce the number of waking hours that you're dealing with the hunger and thirst. In my experience, I actually find Ramadan a bit easier during the workday as opposed to the weekend. At least during the workday, you've kind of got something to keep yourself busy and occupied for a while. Working hours are reduced in Qatar for Ramadan because most people are fasting. Our working day is now 5 hours from 9 to 2. So that helps a bit too. But boy, by 1 o'clock, your mind is already going and like you get pretty hungry. In my experience, because I normally eat lunch around 12:30, by about noon, 12:30, my stomach's all just like, hey, grr, come on, it's time for lunch, let's eat. And Then by about 1:32, it kind of realizes, okay, we're not eating anything, and then it quiets down a bit. But it's the latter part of the work week is a tough time. And it was good to do this experience way back when to kind of really understand. Because, of course, in those first few years, I was just, showing up at like Muslim colleagues' desks at around 1 o'clock. It was like, hey, can we have a meeting? Let's discuss blah, blah, blah. Let's work on this project. And they just look at you like, just die. Just die. No, not that bad. But they just look at you like, oh, come on. Because, of course, many non-Muslims, we weren't fasting. You were allowed to, eat or drink food in the kitchen or whatever, out of sight of everybody. But having started fasting, I realized that, by about 1 o'clock, you're really in no mood for, being sharp on the take and having meetings to discuss stuff, work on stuff. You're tired, you are hungry, you're really thirsty. You just want to go home and go to sleep. Which brings up the whole issue around time. Now, given that everyone's fasting during the day, and during the day, restaurants are closed, pretty much all restaurants. I think maybe some hotels keep their restaurants open and they can deliver food to their own guests, but for the most part, that's it. No restaurants are open during the day. They only open after sunset. So, nothing's happening during the day. Then you have sunset. Then everyone has their first meal called an iftar. Now, in an iftar, you're supposed to break your fast with an odd number of dates, and then you drink some water and laban, or maybe you have some something light, a little bit of light food. But then Muslims have to go off to a special prayer called tarawih, which can last anywhere an hour and a half, 2 hours after their iftar. And so in Qatar right now, that means that'll go to about 8:30. And then you go home to have a bigger meal, typically called a sahur in most parts of the Arabic world. Some people call it a ghabga. And that tends to be a much bigger meal. Now, that means this could be 9:30, 10 at night. And you haven't even really started your day. Like, shops were closed and everything. So now what do you do? What do you do about shopping and, just living a life? Well, that's when it starts. In Qatar, everything's open from like 9 o'clock onward. You can go to malls at midnight. You can go to malls at 12:30. I've seen banks open at, I think, 1 a.m., customers lined up, to see the tellers and things. It's really strange, but it's something that sort of the whole country shifts its time because everyone's fasting during the day and everything's closed during the day. So then you don't have a choice. Everything has to be open well into the late evening, which means then after 12:30, you go home. And people start going to bed, or some people even stay up just to keep themselves awake until 4 o'clock and then go to the prayer at 4 and then go to sleep for a little bit before they go to work. So your sleep schedule starts to get really thrown off. You're typically having 2 major sleeps during the entire day. You have one in the afternoon after you get back from work for 2 or 3 hours, and then you have another one in the early evening or maybe even in the morning, depending on how you're splitting it all up. I generally try to get to bed 1 o'clock in the morning, which means I sleep 2.5 hours, then the alarm goes off so I can eat something, and then I go to bed until probably around 7:30. So then I get up and then I can go to work. Now, you might think with all this fasting that it'd be pretty easy to lose weight because you're fasting most of the day. But actually, most people gain weight during Ramadan. But it's a celebratory time. So people are typically going to friends' places or relatives' places and having big meals. Sorry, my throat's getting dry. And restaurants and hotels typically have these huge buffets that everyone's going to. And so they're actually eating a lot. And in the first few years I was fasting, I couldn't believe how much I was actually eating in the evening. And I've managed to pare it down quite a bit. I don't go out to restaurants and hotels much anymore during this period and try to have smaller, simpler meals at home, or maybe when I go to friends' places, try to keep it light. Otherwise, you'll just balloon going to these huge meals that everyone's hosting, or the buffets at the restaurants. I'm telling you, in the first year, I was probably doing that like every second day, was going to some restaurant or buffet with people, and it really got out of hand. And other events that happen in Qatar during this time, at least once during the month, I will go visit the Ramadan Cannon to signify when the fast can end. They have a cannon set up at the state mosque, and the military's there, and they get the cannon set up, and right when it's time to break your fast, they pull the cannon, making a huge noise in the hopes that, everyone around can hear it. Now, the mosques will also announce it. Like every mosque in Qatar will also announce where the prayer will end. So you'll hear in the background all these calls. That's when you can break your fast. Lots of people always go to watch the cannon. They bring their families and kids and stuff. It gets quite loud. It can actually scare the kids because they don't realize just how loud it's going to be. But I always do try to go to that at least once. Another tradition in Qatar is in the hour or so leading up to breaking the fast. Sometimes there's not much to do. Maybe people aren't asleep. So what a lot of people do is they'll get into classic cars or fancy cars, really luxury cars, and they will go down to the Corniche and they will just drive back and forth along the Corniche. And then lots of people will stand on the side of the road taking pictures of all the nice cars. So it's kind of this informal Corniche car parade, and that tends to happen every day at Ramadan, starting from around 4 o'clock, leading up to about 5:30, and then everyone starts heading home for breaking the fast. Lastly, on the 15th day of the month, although it's not an activity for me, but it is a tradition, it's a holiday called Garangao. And it has a lot of similarities to Halloween. During the evening, children dress up in traditional clothing. That'd be thobes for young boys and, kind of abayas and things like that for girls. And traditionally, they would go door to door and ask for sweets and candy or nuts, similar to a Halloween tradition. But nowadays what happens is a lot of places host Garangao events like Katara or at the Pearl or malls and things. And families can go there, and the kids go from, station to station collecting nuts and candy and so forth. And maybe they'll have traditional songs and traditional crafts and stuff. But they always do that at Ramadan, always on the 15th of the month. Not quite like Halloween in that you dress up in whatever costume you want to dress up in. It's only traditional clothing, and it's only for kids. You don't have adults having Garangao parties and doing stuff like that. So that's it for the video. Also, because my throat's getting really dry, because I have not had water for quite some time, and I won't be able to for a few hours yet. Here's hoping I can get through this all right. Usually the first couple of days of fasting is the toughest, and then you kind of get in a groove, and then it's no problem. But I'm starting to get tired, definitely going to need a nap. And then I will hopefully get up in time, prepare a small iftar, and see where we go from there. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all later.